Hello everyone out there. It is Tall Grass Lane Stitches and I've got a new FlossTube episode for you. It's been a while. I've been trying to do one a month and this month has gotten busier like I thought it would. It's May, school things are ramping up, work things are ramping up. So I have time today. There was a sort of confluence of situations that made it happen. Slightly different setup. You are perched on top of a stool, on top of which is my DMC case, on top of which are two cutting boards, and then there's a box of collected Beethoven pieces, and my iPad is sort of hanging down off of that, and I've got measuring cups on top of that to make sure that the iPad doesn't suddenly decide to fall down. So we will see how this works. I've got projects lined up here and on the other side of me as well. So I'd like to start by showing you where I got to on my April projects. I am participating in WhipGo. If you follow me, you'll know that. And April was good to me. So I finished one project and made some good progress on the other. The one that I finished is called Dinah's Garden Blueberry by Lila Studio. And I wanted to stitch this one to remember a trip I took out west to Oregon a while back. Now, I'm not very detailed when I take notes. These are my notes. So, hopefully I can tell you all the information. Although I wasn't able to visit the store when I was out there, this is a few years back now, I wanted to purchase this pattern from a store on the West Coast, which I did. Can't remember the name of it right now. If I remember, I'll put it down in the notes. But I bought the fabric from them and the chart and the Classic Colorworks threads. There they are. Subtle variegations. And I decided that I was going to stitch it 1/1. It's a linen fabric. I wouldn't recommend stitching 1/1 on linen, especially when it's a fairly loose weave. It can get frustrating fast. But after a while, I got a bit of a feel for it, and I learned that you definitely want to complete each stitch as you go, whether you're using a variegated floss or not. This is a Belfast linen, a 32 count summer khaki. And oh, there you go. There's the name of the shop, Acorns and Threads. Because I did 1/1, I've still got a good chunk of fabric left, which is nice. And here is the finished product. And you'll see I did make some changes. There she is. So instead of saying blueberry up here, I changed it to Oregon and the date of the trip that I took, 2018. And then I think in here there was a bee inside the quilt star, and I just changed it to sort of a checkerboard type of thing. I don't have Pattern Keeper or a device to put it onto, but what I've been doing sometimes is I'll take a picture of the chart. Don't worry, I don't share it with anyone. I delete it when I'm done, but it's essentially my working copy. I take a picture of the chart, the actual chart, not the front, and then I upload it in GoodNotes, and I use that to check off, or to mark my pattern essentially. And I also use that to chart how I was going to alter the pattern. It was a lot of fun to stitch. My plan is to make it into either a pillow or a flat finish. And I mean, you can see how small it is there. So that should work well for that. It was a fun stitch. And I'm glad I have a stitched memento of that vacation. The next thing that I worked on was my Leisure Arts Reindeer and Santa. It comes from this book, Merry Christmas ABC. And they essentially have, each letter gets its own chart. Sometimes they combine letters, but A is for angel, for example. And then we've got R for the reindeer that gallop and prance. And I decided I needed to stitch a reindeer for each of the Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, all of them, plus Santa. So I've got a massive piece of fabric, like absolutely massive. And I very carefully charted out and blocked out exactly. I didn't need to leave huge margins because of how I plan to finish it. So first up was finishing the reindeer. When I started, I wanted to add gold to the yellow elements. And when I started, I thought I would do that by stitching yellow and then adding a krennic filament. But I discovered that I really preferred the Petite Treasure braid. So I took out the yellow and I replaced it, and then I finished the back stitching. And this style of chart is one of the ones where once you put the back stitching in, everything just really pops. And I love it. There's a few different colors of back stitching in there. The gold is back stitched with gold. There you have it. The first completed, and only so far, completed reindeer. But that month I also had time. So here, I'll give you an idea of the fabric, and you can see the partitions sort of. There it is. Go, 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 go. And there is Santa. So I got quite a lot of progress on this one. You'll see compared to my starting photo, which I hopefully will have inserted. Now I don't like to backstitch until the cross stitches are done, or at least until all the surrounding cross stitches are done. So I had a little bit of the wood to finish, and I think all the green was done, like the inlay green was complete. But then I worked on the Santa, and in between I would add a little bit. This area here, the sack with the toys, has a lot of colors in it, so there's a lot of starting and stopping. So what I did, I guess if there's no glare, I can do it straight on. So what I did was I started back stitching, and I'd add a thread of back stitching, and then I'd put more in here or in here, depending. And I haven't back stitched his face yet, but I did get his hat and some other details. It's a lot of fun to stitch, and it's one of those ones that just, the colors she uses in her designs are so rich and vibrant, and makes it fun to stitch, to see it all come together. That's obviously a long project, and I think, I'll show you my Whipco board. I think this one shows up again. Yeah, it does. Now, on my board, the purple bordered boxes, say that 10 times fast. The purple bordered boxes are the ones that have been culled. And as you can see, there are some check marks that are not purple bordered. And that was because I had extra time. So I put extra work into those ones and sort of worked my way ahead, because I made the assumption that it will be more difficult to keep up in the summer months. And that is proving to be true. It's been May, I would say, I mean, this isn't summer for us yet, it's still definitely spring, but it's also definitely getting more difficult to keep up. It doesn't help that I decided that I was not going to give myself a free square. So when the numbers were called this month, they included the free square. And when that happens, she picks a third number. And so I have 3 fairly major projects to work on. So you'll see I've done... Anyways, that's that. The reason I wanted to show you this right now is just to say that this reindeer and Santa sleigh does show up again on the board. So I'll have a chance. It would be awesome if I could finish the sleigh. That would be so exciting. So I'll quickly fold this up, and then I'd like to show you a finish. And it's almost, I'm sorry if you heard that beep, I thought I turned the volume off. It is almost completely finished, fully finished. This is a Shannon Christine Designs free chart. If you belong to her Facebook group, every once in a while she does post a free chart in the files. And this one was called Thankful and Blessed. I pulled out some old, and I mean old, Charles Craft Ada that I thought would work with the colors, and especially with the white pumpkin there. And then I followed a tutorial that was posted recently by Hands On Design. She did a tutorial for a hoop finish, and I used part of that to figure out how to do this. So it's padded. I'm still sort of trying to persuade the padding to even itself out. And as you can see, I finished it with a brown sort of jute look rickrack. I actually had to glue that twice. The first time it was too high, and my plan is to mount it in this decorative pie tin thing. So obviously I wanted the rickrack to show once it's in here. I can sort of approximate it for you. And the first time I did it too high, and you could see this part like this, the arch of the rickrack that you don't want to be seeing. You could see it. I had glued it with a white glue that dries clear, but I'd only used dabs here and there, so I was able to rip it off. That was a little nerve-wracking, but it happened. And then just re-glue it. I used pins to keep it down while the glue was setting. So that's what it will look like eventually, and I'll be able to hang it. And lacing something round is fun. I just used 2 threads of regular sewing thread, like a good quality, I think it's Aurifil sewing thread. And I started by doing this and then sort of going a clockwise direction. And then I'd look at the front, and where it looked like it was buckling in a funny way, I'd put another stitch in there. And then I'd look at the front again and find another bubbly spot and put a stitch in the similar area on the back. And eventually I was happy with the result. I think what I'm gonna do now that I've shown you this is I'm just gonna take some scrap foam core and glue a couple stacks in here. I'm hoping the glue will stick to the metal. If not, then I'll use a magnet. And in that case, I would glue the foam core to here, and then a magnet, and then pop. It's not gonna get a whole bunch of wear and tear, so I don't have to worry about it being super sturdy. But a finish, it's always fun to have an actual complete finish, right? So that takes care of April. I'll put that out of the way. And then we get down to May. So like I explained before, I've got 3 projects for May, and they're not small ones. I've got this old Just Cross Stitch magazine, magic oh sorry, Mardi Gras masks. Haven't worked on that yet. And then I've got the Donna Kooler Bygone Days stocking. I've gotten a fair bit done on that. And because I was sick, I had 2 of these check marks had a lot of stitching in them. I just cross off a day whenever I stitch, that's a check mark. And if it's 5 minutes because it was a busy day, that's fine. And if it was a couple hours because I had more time, that's awesome too. It's 1 check mark. And then Long Dog Sampler, I think I actually have stitched on it 10 days and I just forgot one of them, but that's okay. An extra day won't hurt. So let me show you. Oh, and I want to show you this now. Oh wait, there's one more thing after that hiding there. Okay, so we've got Long Dog Sampler first. I have made my way across the entire top. I've backstitched the entire top row of pages and I've started the second. So I don't know that my board is big enough for all of it, but we will try our best. So there is the top row of pages on Pandemic. When I got it, it was a free chart. And there you can see the start on the second page. I have stitched the border all the way to the bottom of the page. Now, this area is really heavy with stitching. There's a lot of borders that are quite involved, sort of like this bit here. So this will take a while. I was also, because I stitched my way across the top, including the back stitching, I was able to take out the horizontal grid lines so you can see the design a bit more clearly. It's just so much fun to stitch this one. I saw some advice once that said if you're going to stitch something monochromatic, make sure you pick colors you like. So I did. I picked sort of a navy blue. And it is 3750 DMC. And then for the back stitches that are on the navy blue stitches, I'm using a gray that matches the pattern says white, but I'm using a gray that matches this printed fabric, model printed fabric. So there's my most recent progress on my Long Dog Sampler. Sun's shining through there. When you don't know what you're doing in terms of videoing, you want good light, so you shoot in the daytime, if possible. But I don't always know how to work with that light. There we go. So you can see a little squirrel on the side of that flower motif and a bird with some very fancy head feathers on top. Here we go. That's my Long Dog Sampler. It's exciting to be making progress. Now, just because I've got a row of pages done, there's still all of this. As you can see, the horizontal grid marks are missing from the bottom. If it's possible, when I take out the top, I add to the bottom, because I don't want to be in a position where I can't start a new page. I mean, I could, but I really prefer to stitch this with the grid marks, just because nobody wants to do a ton of unstitching, and that can happen, at least to me. So I try to prevent it. Right. Then I will show you my Mardi Gras mask. That comes from, there's the title page of the chart. That comes from, just finding the front of the magazine. Just cross stitch, January, February 2011. That was the front of the magazine for that month. There you go. So I started this long before I knew that petite treasure braid was a thing, which is fine. I find that if I stitch, some of you might find this is too much or too fussy, but I find that when I stitch, if I have the filament in with the DMC threads on the same needle, the filament, a lot of it gets lost. So what I like to do is I have 2 needles going, and I'll take a stitch with the DMC floss and then a stitch with the filament so that the filament lays on top. I realize that's ridiculous, but it's what I do. So I've got this black even weave. It's fairly soft and supple. And I have a small start, but it's so colorful and fun. And I haven't stitched on this in ages. So this has no progress in May yet. The Long Dog sampler I showed you, I've been stitching on that already. This one I have not gotten to yet. Now I don't think I'll be able to show you, like the black is scaring the camera. There you go, you can see how vibrant the colors are. I can't quite, I promise there's sparkle in there. Can't see it on the camera though. Be fun to make some good progress on that one. And then another one that where did the bag go? Another one that oh, do you want to see the Krennics? Then you'll be able to see the sparkle. Back up, back up, back up. So, here they are. They're all blending filaments. There they are. Really intense colors, really typical or traditional Mardi Gras colors. I've got someone in mind for this. Someone who likes masks and has vacationed in New Orleans. And then, before I show you the Bygone era stocking, I want to show you a start I had. So Modern Folk Embroidery put out a free chart in support of Ukraine, and I downloaded it. He added some notes to his to the chart, just listing some charities that he has looked into and made sure that they're legit, and that he suggests you donate to if you download this. But the download itself is free. Colors are yellow and blue. And there's my start. So it'll basically be a frame. And I'm stitching this 1/1. So it must be a fairly small count. I don't know. This was a random, kind of strangely thick even weave that I had. And I'm pretty sure it was given to me because I haven't finished my edges with tape in a long time. But it's perfect for this, and it'll be small enough to make a pillow or a flat fold. It's got these floral designs, and then in the middle will be the Ukrainian word for peace. So I've been working on that. I often work on this when I go to quilting club. I know it's not quilting, but they're an inclusive bunch of people there, so I can stitch even if it's not technically a quilting thing. All right, the last thing I have to show you today is my Bygone era stocking. Did I? Yes, I did. So it comes from this book, Donna Kooler's Ultimate Stocking Collection, and I think there's a second book as well. So you can see there's all different styles, and the second book has, I don't know if it has another version of these styles for every style in here, but a lot of them it does. I hope that made sense. So there's, let's see if I can find some pictures to show you. So there's that, for example, sort of a fun animals one called Winter Fun on Ice. And for pet lovers, in this case dogs, There's that one. There's really good instructions on how to finish your stocking as well. And the charts all have the outline of the stocking on them, which I find really helpful. I've never made one before. And then there's kind of this more like old style, vintage looking illustration type of style. And the one I'm working on is called Bygone Era, and it really does look like a Victorian postcard. And now, will it open to the page I need? It did. Okay. So it's meant to look like this in the end. I chose a light blue fabric. And I've been stitching, I believe this was the first time I participated in Stitch Mania. This was a start from then. And I'm right about here now. So what I'm trying to do is I stitch a 10 row section at a time and work my way across. And it's kind of fun to see things appearing. There you go. So I'm stitching it on a blue-gray fabric. I just thought it was appropriate to the winter theme. And it's currently sitting in a frame, which actually works well because then you can see properly. Just tighten it up a bit. Bygone Era stocking. Again, the colors are so rich and that really suits the topic. I've done just a little bit of back stitching, but mostly just stuck to the cross stitches. I love the way they've depicted the snow and the shadows in the snow. Not with grays, but with very soft blues and peaches and I guess lilacs. So you can see, I figured if I can reach, there's a bird. There's a bird that I haven't backstitched the beak onto, but there's a bird that kind of comes in here. There's the sled, the brown bits are the curved parts of the sled, her hands, her mittened hands, and the beginnings of her sleeves, and the cuffs on her sleeves and the brown. And then there's a tree on her sled as well. It's coming in as well. And as you can see, I'm almost done. So what I do is I'll fill in an area, but if the color just kind of naturally migrates up, I'll do that as well. And it kind of gives me some anchor points when I start the next row of 10. And I'm almost done this section. And that's what I had to show you for FlossTube this month and a half. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.